I am Zeynep, your Turkish teacher and the language learner of many years, and I want to share with you the secret methodology that us teachers use so that you can apply it to yourself and learn Turkish on your own. It's a 3-part cycle that revolves around some basic principles, and if you don't see your teacher, textbook or course applying these principles, then it might be time to look for a new teacher textbook or a course. And at the end, I give you invaluable teacher tips on how to tie this all together and put it to use. Set your aim. I know this may sound like a no-brainer, but how many of you actually do it? How many of you actually say, okay, I'm going to study for this long, and by the end, I will be able to make sentences using this. So why should you do it? Because it clarifies the learning objective so you know what you are working towards. It makes the study session digestible and manageable. You know where to stop. It's not an endless, tiresome study bout. How should you do it? Keep your aim short, simple, targeted. For example, by the end of this study session, I will have a good grasp of the continuous tense, the ior ending, and I will be able to create 5 simple short sentences of my own using this ending. So this is specific enough to be digestible. Helpful psychological trick: stop before it gets overwhelming. Yes, if you're studying and if you're feeling great, that's where you know where to stop, because this will keep you wanting more, and that's how you keep your motivation up. It leaves a good taste in your mouth. And that's why your aims should be small and probably much smaller than you think. And by the end, you want to actually be able to produce using what you have learned in that study session. We don't want a half-assed understanding of any subject, because that's not good studying. Start with vocabulary. Get the vocabulary for the section that you're going to study first and foremost. Why? Because then you don't have to stop and check vocabulary while you're on to learning grammar. And also because the number of times that you see the same vocabulary item or encounter the same vocabulary item is important. So you might as well start this process as early as possible in your studies. How should you go about this? Group your vocabulary items by theme, by lesson, and you can introduce about 20 different vocabulary items a day if you are systematic about it. Use spaced repetition. It's okay to disregard useless vocabulary. If you don't think a certain thing is going to be useful for you, then just don't learn it and make space for the other things that are more important. It's okay to skip things in your textbook, course, lesson, whatever. Just focus on what's useful for you, because useful means you have context for it. And if you have context for it, the repetition around that vocabulary item is going to create a good cycle and you're going to learn it. And if you're an adult learner, which I think you probably are if you are watching this video, you're never going to say crocodile in a million years. Passive learning is not really a thing in general, in my opinion, and it certainly doesn't work for vocabulary, meaning you can't just put on a vocabulary list and go about your day mindlessly without paying attention to it. If you're going to listen to something, for example, such as a vocabulary list, then you want to interact with it. You can either repeat it out loud or pay a lot of attention to it and create context in your mind. So you need to be listening to it actively. So no listening to vocabulary lists while you sleep. I mean, if you're going to sleep and if you're going to pay attention to it until you fall asleep, then it's fine. But like, there's no such thing as, learning while you sleep. Sorry. Going through vocabulary lists isn't helpful on its own. You need spaced repetition and context, and better if both. Go from broad to specific. It is okay to have a vague understanding of a vocabulary item initially. You will encounter the vocabulary item again if your course or textbook or lesson is well designed, and each time that you encounter it, it will be in a different context, and that will help you to narrow down your understanding of that vocabulary item. This is how children learn as well. So give some space to vocabulary. It's okay to have a vague understanding at first, especially if that compromise is going to mean that you won't resort to translation. Make that compromise. It will help you in the long run. So trust the process. Learn the grammar point. Next level up on the ladder of learning is grammar. And remember, these steps are things that you will continue to repeat in a cycle for each new thing. Why? Because people are trying to get clicks when they tell you that you don't need to learn grammar. As an adult learner, you do need to learn grammar at least a tiny bit. People are telling you that you don't need to learn grammar because they want to tell you what you want to hear, so it sounds revolutionary, so that it catches your attention. You can't not learn grammar. Why? Because learning grammar allows you to see where you are standing in your studies, which helps you to develop a more progressive approach. The clickbait method of just diving straight into the language without being bothered by what is what creates a disorganized mess. What does your brain need to learn? It needs organization, grouping, and context. This is how you can learn efficiently. This is especially true if you are trying to go from a language such as English, German, Italian, Russian towards a language such as Turkish. How? See the grammar explanation. Make sure you understand it fully in all aspects. Do this in isolation. What does this mean? This means see examples. Good textbooks, courses, and teachers choose very specific examples and they design the examples nicely and suited to your learning needs. What does this look like? The examples use already mastered structures other than the thing that is being introduced. So there is only one new thing in the example and possibly in that entire section. Only one new thing. This is what I mean by isolation, and this is important. You want to focus on one thing at a time because learning is already frustrating and kind of confusing. The example sentences are short and to the point, and the example sentences show a variety. So a positive, a negative, a question, and possibly with a different personal ending or something. Make sure you understand the examples. This means that after seeing the grammar point being introduced, when you look at the examples, you should go, aha, of course that's how that works in a sentence. Are you thinking about how to implement all of these practices in your studies? Or are you maybe confused as to how you can implement these? Well, this video will definitely help you, but you know what? We've got a course for you that will do all of that for you. So you can continue to have a good structure in your studies, but you don't have to worry about doing it yourself. So you can check the details for our course at the link in the description. Next, you want to practice the grammar point. And for me, doing grammar exercises is actually entertaining and I do it for fun. And I hope that you do too. Why should you do it? Because doing grammar exercises helps you to solidify the grammar point. It also helps you to see where you are lacking, and like it or not, as an adult learner, it hastens the learning process. So like it or not, I think you should give some space to grammar exercises, even if it's only a little bit, but I would say don't skip it. This is also because it helps with vocabulary. Remember when I said you should start the vocabulary repetition cycle as soon as possible in your studies? Because you did the vocabulary studies beforehand, now you see the same vocabulary in the grammar exercises. And it's also vocabulary practice where you see the vocabulary, encounter the vocabulary in a meaningful way. So here is the formula to practice grammar. If your book or course or whatever doesn't follow this kind of formula, you can change it up so that it does. Initially, you want minimal production, if any. Like you want as little production as possible. What does this mean? This can mean that you are matching two parts of a sentence. So you are putting the two parts together. This can mean that you are taking already conjugated verbs from a box and putting them in sentences. This can be reading something without answering reading comprehension questions yet, right? So this is your first stage of practice. And then the second stage is where there is a little bit more production involved. What does this mean? This means that maybe you have a sentence and then you are given verbs and you are doing the conjugation of the verbs yourself. So see, we are adding a little bit on top. You want to do this in isolation. You can isolate positives, negatives, questions, personal endings if necessary. If you don't find it necessary, don't isolate. But if a grammar point is especially challenging, then what you want to do is to isolate more and more and more. And then the final stage is where you make your own sentences, where you produce using the grammar. So we said that we wouldn't answer reading comprehension questions at the initial stage. At this stage, you can answer reading comprehension questions. This is a fantastic way to produce using the grammar point with context. You can look at pictures and describe pictures using the grammar point. You can use vocabulary cues to make sentences using the grammar structure that you learned. And you can answer other open-ended questions, have a dialogue with your teacher, etc. This will give you the motivation to start your next cycle where you learn another new thing. Because now you can see that you can indeed use the newly learned vocabulary and grammar in your speech or in some other form of production. See how we built it all up? Kind of like a ladder. That is what we want from a well-designed study session, a well-designed learning session. And this is what you should look for in courses, in lessons. This is what you want to see teachers doing. So yeah. Here are your bonus teacher tips on how to put this all together. Production is the hardest part. What does production mean? Production is output. It is speaking and writing. Your speaking and writing skills are always a little worse than your listening and reading skill levels. This is true for your native language as well as any other language that you learn. Of course, this may change from person to person, but as a general rule, this is the case. So you remind yourself this. Don't get too frustrated with yourself if you can understand but you can't speak. You don't notice it, but trust me, you can understand a lot more than what you can speak in your native tongue as well. Good studying means that your production skills are not too far behind your comprehension skills, meaning that your speaking and writing skills are maybe like this far from your listening and reading skills. Maybe this far, but not this far. If it is like this, then you want them going like this, like progress together. Making mistakes is an integral part of learning anything. So if you are making mistakes, this is an opportunity for progress. This is an opportunity for you to see where you are lacking. Don't avoid your mistakes. Dive headfirst into your mistakes and focus on your mistakes. But where do you focus on your mistakes? Remember we said that we would follow like a 3-part formula to practicing a grammar point. Initially, there's very little production, and at this second stage, there is a little more production, and this is like full-on production, right? You want to focus on your mistakes at these 2 levels. And you don't want to be too bothered by making mistakes at this stage, because this is where you are focusing on your production skills. You don't want that to be disrupted. This is for fluency. These 2 are for learning. Understand the character of your mistakes. try to see a pattern in your mistakes, or try to see if there is a pattern in your mistakes. And if there is, then like catch it and then latch onto it and then do what needs to be done. Read exercises out loud. Your brain needs to hear it, and you need to develop your motor skills in that language. Yes, your mouth and your tongue need to get used to producing the new sounds that the new language uses. So make the most out of your studies and read things out loud always, always. This creates a very nice opportunity for your brain to listen to itself while it's speaking. So this is what good studying looks like. Are you already following these steps? In what parts of studying are you lacking? Are some of your skills a little bit behind? Are you working on them? What are you doing to work on them? You can put all of those things in the comments, because commenting on videos and liking videos is a very good way to show us that you like the content, so we know that we should make more of this content. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.